digital agenda is all about data, analytics, cloud, AI, ML, and emerging technologies that are transforming not only companies but also entire industries and even our lives. Hi, my name is Piyush Malik, a curious mind who wears and juggles multiple hats as an engineer, a management consultant, practitioner, a builder, a thought leader, entrepreneur, and a C suite executive. I have been in the industry helping organizations realize and navigate the value of data, analytics, applied AI ML, and emerging technologies. I have created strategies and transformation programs that helps them compete with the digital natives. In today's episode of the Digital Agenda, we'll be talking with Mike Branch, who's been my client from Canada. He joined Geotab in 2016, where he brought in 2 years, 2 decades of experience and accomplishments as a data scientist, software developer, engineer, and an entrepreneur. In his current role as Vice President of Data and Analytics, he leads the development of data products and data strategy. In 2021, Mike played a key role in the development of Geotab Intelligent Transportation System, which provides insights to develop more efficient, safer, and sustainable transportation systems. I had the privilege of working with Mike in 2017 in 2018 timeframe when we were introducing them to Google Cloud, AI ML, and advanced analytics through BigQuery. And previous to Geotab, Mike was the founder and CEO of Innovax, a software development company focused on servicing the healthcare industry and municipalities. Over these years, Mike has received numerous awards for professional leadership, volunteerism, and product innovation. He holds a BSc in Computer Science from the University of Toronto and a Master's of Management in AI from Queen's University, and he's a licensed professional engineer. Without much further ado, let's go and meet Mike. Here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Agenda. Today, our special guest is Mike Branch. He is the Vice President at Geotab. It's a Canadian company, and I would let Mike introduce himself. So, Mike, welcome, and please tell about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much, Piyush. No, I as you mentioned, from a Canadian company here called Geotab. We connect to millions of vehicles across the globe. So we're connected to about 3.5 million commercial vehicles. I started with the company about 7 years ago now. By trade, I guess by education, I'm an engineer, so a computer engineer. Graduated from the University of Toronto in computer engineering, and after that, way back in 2003, that is now, I started up a company, a small software company called Innovex with my lab mate at the time, actually, at U of T, and we ran that for about 13 years, and we did a lot of development, custom software development for the sector. You'd find us on oil and gas rigs in Calgary, Alberta, developing real-time data acquisition systems for those rigs, and so a whole bunch of software development work. And what we kind of found ourselves good at was visualizing data and making sense of that. Didn't really matter what the industry was. So we spun up a new kind of entity, which was related to visualization with a geospatial twist on it, called Maps BI. And after a few years of running that, my marketing manager at the time, Chris, he actually ended up playing squash with Neil, who was the CEO of Geotab, and he said, "You know what? I think I should meet, because you guys are doing some really interesting things when it comes to data and to visualization with this geospatial context. And Neil's got this telematics company." I knew nothing about telematics at the time. And so we ended up becoming a partner, and kind of the rest is history. So there's just, one day I got a one-liner email from Neil that said, "Hey, how'd you like to be part of Geotab?" So I thought a bit about it, and haven't looked back since. It's been phenomenal. I've seen the growth like crazy over the last 7 years.
Awesome. This is a very wonderful story to dive deeper into different aspects of it. So, engineer at heart, born in Canada, and while playing sports, you make connections, and that's how you land your next big gig. So, more importantly, you're an entrepreneur at heart. You have started companies, and you have led the growth that I have seen from the association you and I had while at the Geotab Google project. You've grown your company, your division within the company within such a caring manner that everybody loves working with you. So definitely hats off to your management capabilities, but also the data and analytics geek in you who continues to go deeper into it, from visualization to and spanning industries. Telematics on with sensor data on oil rigs, and now with automotive. It's a very amazing story, very fascinating. So let's dive deeper into your journey, from pure data analytics into data analytics on the cloud, and how AI driven projects that you started leading.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. I haven't thought about that one in a while. So my journey when it came to data was really I came in it from a software perspective, right? I always liked writing software, and to write software, any software, especially early days, there's always some sort of data. There has to be a data element to it. And so started off very early, with MySQL and SQL Server back in the day when, you'd have your .NET application with an SQL Server backend on the computer itself, right? Maybe you have an SQLite database. And so that's kind of where my kind of interest in data started from, was really from that kind of software angle. And then, as the cloud came to be in its own right in the 2000s and 2010 and 2012, and it really morphed. Like, what you could do with data at scale was rapidly changing. And so when we first designed our Maps BI platform, which is kind of like Tableau, but it was very geospatial oriented, they're doing data at scale wasn't quite a thing yet, right? We were still reliant on a lot of older RDBMS systems like SQL Server. And so getting them to be really performant was quite a challenge. A lot of query optimization. One of the things that I really liked was, I love geospatial data, right? I think always had a fascination with it. And to do things at scale with geospatial data can become, quite complex. And so that's kind of where my journey began with data, was really from the databases side of things. I didn't have formal education, in analytics and all this kind of, until later actually in life. I went back for a master's in management in AI.
Okay.
And I did that at Queen's University while I was with Geotab, and learned a heck of a lot there as well too. What a great program that was. But it was really with Geotab that I could kind of parlay that knowledge of SQL, of database systems, into this kind of new world. I always had that kind of entrepreneurial background, so could kind of marry the two together. And so with the introduction of things like Google BigQuery, the interesting thing about that was that you could take your skill set from these relational databases and immediately be impactful at scale. And for me, that was the really cool thing, because half the battle, not to say that you don't have to worry about query optimization, because you do, but half the battle when you're dealing with these smaller systems, if you want to build them to scale, what a challenge that really becomes. And with systems like Google BigQuery, like Snowflake, like these massive systems, it becomes a heck of a lot easier. And to do that with geospatial data, like, wow, you could write queries that would, process millions, billions of records of data, in seconds, and do all sorts of really interesting things. And geospatial data it's not easy to do that at scale with. So, and then from there, there's been so much that we've learned. It's the world has changed so much from a data perspective from the time I started at Geotab in 2016 to now. The tool sets that you have to work with, it's constantly changing. You have to be I think consistently learning as you go in this field.
Yeah, and you've been a consistent learner, a continuous learner. I mean, you talked about your master's that you just completed, and again, learning on the job, while on the job, as well as augmenting it with the university program, definitely enriches your professional life. And now talking about, the way you were talking about how when cloud came and you were able to apply your RDBMS knowledge to the cloud, it seems like you felt like a kid in a candy store when the cloud came, and then you were able to play with all kind of data, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's interesting, it's fascination. I think, when we first started at Geotab, was a lot of exploration, right? Because the way we used something like Google BigQuery at first was very much, it wasn't part of our production systems, right? It was used for a lot of diagnostics, some early analytics, but we said, you know what, let's just pump everything to the cloud, right? And then we have this repository where we can use it to help support our customers, provide better systems, that kind of thing. And then you quickly realize that if you're not careful, you can create, this kind of data swamp, right? This dumping ground of data. And as fun as it is to experiment with the data and to, develop new models and this kind of thing, there's a huge tax to be had if you don't focus on data quality, right? And making sure that the quality of the data that goes into all the modeling that you're doing, that's well governed, well executed. And we went through several learnings of that, right? Especially early days when these systems were relatively new, especially to do at scale. Better, data governance practices, data lineage, data provenance, metadata management, you have to treat data as a product. And, I've talked about that quite a few times. And that's I think my biggest piece of advice to people jumping into it from the start is, yes, experiment, but realize that if you're going to take data to this production grade, you have to treat it as a product. And there's so many things that make that different from a traditional kind of software development process.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's give the audience some degree of scale. When we were working on that project to classify the vehicles through the usage of looking at the data and through the telemetric data and all that, you were running more than almost 1.5 million vehicles, the records, and it was in petabytes per day. Where has it gone from there to now?
Yeah, so when we worked together with you folks at Spring and Google there, we were about 1.5 million, and probably the size of my team at that point in time would have been maybe around 30 or so people. So since then, we've grown to 3.5 million commercial vehicles, 55 billion data points every single day.
Wow.
And we're at about 120 people in our core kind of data and analytics team.
Beautiful. So definitely almost from 3 billion records processed per day to 55 billion. This is definitely a mega scale. So did you end up using any special kind of processors within Google GCP, or you are using the normal did you use GPUs or did you use TPUs?
Yeah, we use GPUs in certain instances. Depends on kind of what we're doing or processing. There's so many. We have data scientists with a number of different skills, looking at a wide range of different problems, right? Ranging from simple linear regression problems all the way through to more complex computer vision problems as well too. So it does depend on the task at hand, and we're able to kind of tweak that as needed. I think our first actually foray into machine learning, you guys were very close to the beginning of that with us, right? Yeah. And as we were learning, as this stuff was relatively new, and we've kind of taken that and built upon that. It was cool. So for everybody's understanding, what we were trying to do and what we've evolved since that time as well too is understanding the movement of a vehicle, right? And when people are trying to, when our customers like, UPS, PepsiCo, some of the largest kind of fleets in the world. And when they're trying to, create a more efficient, more productive program for their fleets, oftentimes you can compare against yourself, but you don't really know what good looks like, right? So we have the advantage now of having 3.5 million connected vehicles. We can benchmark quite easily. But if you benchmark, you have to benchmark against apples to apples, right? If you think about fleets, it can be fleets of construction vehicles, of delivery vehicles, municipal vehicles. You can have lawnmowers. So there's so many different kinds of what we call vocations of vehicles. And so what was important for us at this exercise that we started with you guys was understanding, and being able to classify the vocation of a vehicle. Are you a long haul freight type vehicle? Are you a hub and spoke delivery vehicle? And since then we've evolved those. And now once you can benchmark, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah, great. And now with your platform, you are able to offer those insights to your end customers as well. Talk about that and how that platform has evolved over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and so the way I like to look at these things it's really these active insights, right? So it's being able to not just show charts and graphs and everything on a page, just being able to tell you what you need to look at right now. And the way that we kind of look at it is our engine itself, we call it My Geotab. That's our piece of software that that is our fleet management software. You can create all these amazing rules, right? So if you want to create a rule that whenever your vehicle enters a specific geographic bounds, and you're in the park position, you want to send a notification to open up a garage or something, you can do that via these APIs, right? So you create these complex rules. Now with the insights from the vehicle, what we're able to do is, instead of that insight coming from the vehicle, like a parking, a shift in parking or windshield wiper activation, we have our models that come from the vehicle. So it's like, hey, we think that you've got an electrical systems issue, or hey, we think that you've got a coolant issue, or hey, we think that these 3 drivers, something's going on with the way that they're driving abnormally. You may want to consider an intervention here from a safety perspective, right? So the platform is shifted much more to an insights-driven platform. Very much, I was picture it like an AI-enabled fleet manager, right? That can really help guide the fleet.
Yeah. No, this has been great learning. I mean, I'm observing you and your project from a distance now, ever since we disengaged after the initial couple of projects. And now that I'm seeing a lot of news about My Geotab and the growth of the platform, it definitely goes to the perseverance and the ability of your team to pull together things by yourself. So obviously, Google Cloud has been instrumental to your technology stack as well. So I wanted to understand if you had experimented with any other technology stack as well in a multi-cloud world, or is it just on one cloud right now?
We're predominantly a Google shop, and there's advantages, quite a few advantages of that in terms of kind of a common framework and common platforms that we're leveraging and using. We have experimented. We have some work on AWS. We've got a little bit of work on Azure as well too. But I would say, by and large, we are Google cloud shop, and the teams love working with that technology as well too.
Yeah, and Google's recognized you guys as well with awards for the innovative work that you guys have done. So congratulations on that. And of course,
thanks, Piyush. Yeah.
Personally, you have always been a winner. I was reading through some of the awards that you won in the past, and it's definitely a mark of a very strong leader to continue to work and deepen their work. And so I'm amazed at how fast you have scaled your team. This is something which I hear from most of my clients, that they can't find the right talent. And even if they have found, they can't retain them. They have challenges in doing so. And from a startup perspective, Geotab was virtually a startup when you joined them, right? Very small company, and now it's grown, and your team has grown. So you must be doing something right. So what do you do to keep your team engaged and motivated?
It's a great question, and by no means are we immune to everything that's happened within the technology sector. It is challenging, I think, especially 2021, 2020, 2021 were challenging times for sure for everyone. I mean, some of the things I think that we do, and a big call out to one of my colleagues, I think he put it quite well. People, the data scientists we come, they come for the data because it's pretty cool data. I mean, 3.5 million vehicles, 55 billion data points a day, really cool data, and they stay for the culture, right? And so one of the things that I think drives a lot of the folks that we have at Geotab is not only the interest in the kind of data, but then there's a mission-based element to it too, right? We are very focused on driving reduction in collisions on the road. There's a huge sustainability play for us as well too, right? We're focused on transportation decarbonization, right? How can we make sure that as we evolve, as these vehicles evolve, there's going to be a transition to electric vehicles. It's already happening, as we see right across the board. And how can we help our customers transition to electric vehicles? And if you're not at the point where you can transition quite yet, well, let's help you with your idling and reduce your carbon emissions. And so at Geotab, there's a massive play on yes, we as an organization can have a huge impact from a sustainability perspective, but the bigger impact we can have is on the connected vehicles that we're already, and on the organizations we're working with, the 40,000 plus customers, and helping them along their sustainability. So that mission-based sense, I think, gives people a sense of purpose, and what they're doing is having an impact. And so the more that we can show that's great. I think, we've had, we've lost people though in the past, right? And I think some of the things that I've learned is as the team evolves, because we started off as 5 on the data and analytics team, now we're 120, and each step of that evolution, the team dynamic changes, right? And how the teams get formed change. So I like what we've done more recently. It takes a village to raise any data product, and making sure that we have kind of smaller squads, right? It's kind of like we adopted some of the Spotify model, right? But it's a strong product manager, right? Giving the team a purpose of like, what are we doing? What's the why? I'm communicating with the customer consistently. You have strong product delivery, right? Technical project management. So product manager thinks about the strategy, and the TPM thinks about the execution, right? So it keeps the team on track. And then you marry that with a strong UX and a data science and software development, all kind of in one squad that isn't too big. And we find that is a nice recipe for making sure that people are engaged, that you don't have the technical leaders consistently trying to think about the why behind things. It's important for them to be engaged, but having a strong product team has been such a crucial, I think, element to retention as well, right? Because I think people need to know the why and need to be engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Love it. Mission, sustainability, safety. And it's so great that we are talking on the verge of World Earth Day this weekend.
Yeah.
And you're bringing up this point. So this is definitely is a lot of youngsters are driven towards bigger mission, and to keep the culture and the team's cohesive. That's the manager's job. But more than a manager, I think you've been dirtying your hands as well. You've been rolling up sleeves and doing things by yourself. As an entrepreneur, that's in your inherent nature to do things by hand. And when your team sees you do these things together, the team grows together. And it's the intellectual growth, the opportunities you offer while they are on the job and learning on the job, and also growing the career. So I think you've got all the elements covered: mission, safety, environment, and career growth. So good luck to you on that. And of course, all the it doesn't come without hard work. What you see is a smiling face, but I'm sure you would paddle a lot. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that goes
A
into
lot
it.
of work, as I'm sure you can attest to as well too. It's a lot of
I have
work,
lost my
but
hair doing that over the last 30 years. So you and I haven't had that many meetings in person, but once we meet, we'll share more details. That'll be the next session about me. But today it's all about you. So we want to know, in almost summarizing the last few minutes here, uh, what would be Mike Branch doing if not for analytics, data, and cloud?
that's a great question. And I would be doing this, although I probably wouldn't make a career of it. I always loved acting and stage acting, and so
Ooh.
I grew up doing that kind of on the side. I got involved in some community theater as a youngster growing up. I haven't done it in years now, and there's probably a reason for that. But it's fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. I think for me, what I enjoy most about that is not, yeah, the performance itself is fun. There's always that bit of nerve wracking, but it's the lead up to it, all the practices and the rehearsals and the fun that you have with your fellow castmates. And again, it's not dissimilar to you're creating a product, right? The product is the play, and there's a lot of creativity that goes into it, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of fun, and so yeah. Not to say that I'd be on stage on Broadway, but I'd be doing my own thing, having fun anyways, if it weren't for
Right. No, it's always good to have something fun things. So talking about, entertainment as a product, and now you obviously deal with data products. So what would be your advice to somebody who's getting started on building data products? Let's say they're early tenure data engineers, and you and I have hired a lot of data engineers, data architects, and data scientists, but you have to give advice to somebody who's just getting started. So what would that be?
Take a product first approach for sure. And I think really adopt the principles of product management to begin with, because I think if you start there, you're starting with the customer first, right? There's some great books that Marty Kagan has written in Silicon Valley, right? Inspired and Empowered, that I think are great reads. If you're an aspiring person in the realm of data, I would start with understanding some product management principles, because that's going to allow you to apply that to the data world, right? And then as you're thinking about data, think about it iteratively, right? But make sure that you've got quality data to start with, right? I think it can get quite easy. I think one thing that we did well is there's a lot of folks, if you look at data engineering and data science, we focus very much on the data science component first to productize something quickly, right? We left a lot of the pipelining and everything like that to Google at that time, and allowed us to get to market quickly. Whereas I had some colleagues who did the reverse. They spent so much time building this massive framework that they couldn't get anything to market. So I think there's something to be said in iterating, and you can continuously iterate, continuously improve your product, but you do want to get, that's where the product management principles I think really come to play there, in helping you.
Right. Sounds like focusing on your core competency, which is the domain knowledge, and what you knew what needs to go out to the market, helped you while you were able to offload some of the foundational work, data pipeline building, data foundation building to others, which freed up the bandwidth for you, both mental capacity as well as your ability to guide the work in a more impactful manner, something that would have lasting impact for your customers. So I think that's a great lesson. And funny you said product management, because not sure if you knew, right out of college, about 30 years back, product management was my first job.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
Telecom product management, and I wrote about it in a blog recently about how it came about, and it's a fascinating field. And in fact, I talk about when I give career talks to various groups in colleges and universities, and I talk about my career, and I bring up product management. So my daughter also heard me talk about it, and so she got enamored by product management. So she's now from an engineer, now she's a product manager at one of the big tech companies, and she's it's not as glamorous as what it sounds.
It isn't. There's a lot to it, and I always say, like, for me, the product manager has one of the most interesting roles, I think, within an organization. If that organization is thinking about product management correctly, they're really a mini CEO, right? You're the CEO of that product, and you're thinking about everything. And it doesn't end with a UX or a data stream. You're thinking about the customer. You're thinking about the whole picture. And I think that's for anybody who is who likes the versatility and doesn't want to be confined to like a single domain and likes the creativity. I think product management is such an excellent career choice.
Absolutely. Data as a product, think like a product manager, think like a CEO of the data product. And that's the message that Mike Branch is giving us. So Mike, with that, I think we are coming to the end of our stipulated time. So thank you very much for doing this. And from my soul to yours, it is namaste. It is my way of gratitude for the time we've spent together working and for the time that you spend with my audience here. I look forward to seeing you again sometime. And I remember we met at Google Next conference where we were speaking.
Will you be at the Will you be at the one in August?
If you will be here, I will make sure I will attend as well. So
I will be there August, end of August. There, just registered last week.
We have to get together. So all right, Mike, have a good rest of the week and take care. Thank you.
You too, Piyush. Thank you. Bye. Take care.